The nanny's dream. Rosa awoke before dawn, the thin mattress beneath her doing little to ease the ache in her back. The small window in her room let in a sliver of the city's dim streetlight, casting a long shadow across the cracked walls. She sighed and stretched, forcing herself up despite the exhaustion weighing her limbs. There was no time to rest. She had to prepare breakfast for the Duval family before they woke, dress little Emily for school, and complete the endless list of chores Madame Duval had written out the night before. Rosa had been working as a nanny for the Duvals for nearly 3 years, tending to their only child in their grand apartment while earning barely enough to pay for her tiny rented room in the outskirts of the city. But Rosa had a dream she clung to during the hardest days, a dream that kept her going when her hands were raw from scrubbing floors and her feet ached from standing for hours. She wanted to become a nurse, a life of struggles. Rosa had grown up in a small village, the eldest of 4 children. Her father had died when she was 10, and her mother, with no education or stable income, had struggled to keep the family afloat. Rosa had always been the one to care for her younger siblings, tending to their fevers, cleaning their scraped knees, and doing whatever she could to help. She had always dreamed of wearing the crisp white uniform of a nurse, of working in a hospital where she could help people heal. But dreams were expensive, and reality was cruel. At 16, she had left her village, answering a job advertisement for domestic help in the city. It was supposed to be temporary, just long enough to save up for nursing school, but time slipped by, and the money she earned was barely enough to survive. The Duvals paid her a small salary, most of which went to rent, food, and sending a little back home to her family. Madame Duval was demanding, constantly finding fault in her work, while Monsieur Duval barely acknowledged her existence. Only little Emily, with her bright eyes and innocent heart, treated Rosa with kindness, a glimmer of hope. One evening after putting Emily to bed, Rosa sat by the kitchen table, flipping through an old medical book she had found at a second-hand shop. The words fascinated her, descriptions of wounds and how to dress them, explanations of diseases and their treatments. She traced the images of nurses in their uniforms, imagining herself among them. She needed to find a way to study. One morning while taking Emily to school, she noticed a flyer on a lamppost. Nursing assistant training, evening classes available. Her heart pounded. Could this be her chance? That night after finishing her work, Rosa took the bus across town to the address on the flyer. It was a small community center offering training for those who wanted to enter the medical field. The fees were lower than most schools, but still more than she could afford. Determined, Rosa asked if there were scholarships or payment plans. The coordinator, a kind woman named Madame Bernard, studied her for a moment before saying, "If you're serious, we have a work-study program. You'll help clean the facility after classes, and in return, we'll reduce your fees." It was still difficult, but Rosa nodded without hesitation. The double life. For the next few months, Rosa lived a double life. By day, she was the obedient nanny, waking before sunrise to cook, clean, and care for Emily. By night, she attended classes, absorbing every lesson with hunger, staying late to clean the center before heading home. She slept only a few hours each night, her body exhausted but her spirit soaring. She learned how to check vital signs, dress wounds, and assist patients. She practiced with determination, staying after class to ask questions, determined to make up for lost time. But the secrecy weighed on her. She knew that if the Duvals found out, they would not approve. They saw her as nothing more than hired help. One evening, as she quietly let herself back into the apartment, she froze at the sight of Madame Duval standing in the hallway, arms crossed. "Where have you been?" Rosa hesitated, her heart pounding. "Just out." Madame Duval's eyes narrowed. "Out where? You've been sneaking off every night. If you think you can run around the city after hours and still do your job properly—" "I've been taking classes," Rosa blurted out before she could stop herself. Madame Duval's expression turned to shock, then amusement. "Classes? For what?" "Nursing," Rosa said, her voice firm despite the fear in her chest. Madame Duval scoffed. "You, a nurse? Don't be ridiculous. You're a nanny, Rosa. That's what you are?" Rosa clenched her fists. "Only for now." Madame Duval's lips thinned. "You can either work here or chase your little fantasy, but you can't do both. If you leave at night again, don't bother coming back." A difficult choice. That night, Rosa sat in her small room, staring at the peeling walls. She had no savings, nowhere to go. If she lost her job, she would be homeless. But if she stayed, she would be trapped forever. Tears burned her eyes, but she wiped them away. She had worked too hard, come too far. She made her decision. A leap of faith. The next morning, Rosa packed her few belongings and said goodbye to Emily, who cried and clung to her. "I'll miss you," the little girl sobbed. "I'll miss you too," Rosa whispered. "But I have to do this." She left the Duval household with no job and nowhere to go, but for the first time in years, she felt free. Madame Bernard, seeing her determination, helped Rosa find a part-time job as a caregiver in a small clinic. It was difficult, balancing work and school, but Rosa pushed through. Months turned into a year. She passed her exams, earned her certification, and was accepted into a full nursing program. The day she put on her first nurse's uniform, she stood in front of the mirror, hardly believing it. She had done it. She had once been a poor nanny, overlooked and underestimated. But now she was a nurse ready to change lives, including her own. And as she stepped into the hospital for her first shift, she knew that this was just the beginning.